Thank you for giving me space in your Friends Reunion agenda to tell you a little bit about Year for Wildlife. I'd like to start by acknowledging David Saunders, who passed away last year. As well as his work relating to the islands, David led the campaign to save Carmel Woods in Carmarthenshire from being quarried. We now lease the site, and it's comforting to think that one of our best nature reserves in Carmarthenshire is ours because David helped to save it all those years ago. After leaving the West Wales Wildlife Trust, David kept in close contact with staff. Nigel Ajax Lewis first met him in the mid-1970s through Cardiff University and was still in contact during the pandemic when they shared information about the bird interest of Aberthaw for his latest book. It's always sad when we lose someone so integral to the Trust movement, and we will miss him. I'll run through a few slides now to let you know how we're doing financially and then cover a few conservation highlights. This, finally, was a year without any COVID-19 impacts, and the big benefit of this can be seen in our income from nature reserves, the dark blue segment, where income went from 267,000 the year before to 455,000 in the last year. Our trading income also continued to recover and now accounts for 1/4 of our income. Membership subscriptions fell, and we know we need to add resources to that team because their time is increasingly taken up with islands booking and admin. The biggest increase in income, the purple segment, came from grants, which nearly doubled from the year before. We really do make the most of any grants available, but grant income is lumpy, costly to bid for, and almost never fully covers our operating costs. Analysis of the grants we received last year and all the way back to 2005 continues to highlight an issue that we do worry about. Natural Resources Wales, the body that the Welsh Government created to lead support for conservation and nature in Wales, had helped to fund our work to manage over 75 designated sites over the years. But that support has fallen dramatically, and there's really been no other grants that replace that type of reliable funding and can cover such a lot of nature reserves. We can't continue to rely on high grant income in the coming years, and as a responsibly managed charity, we continue to target a balance in our sources of income, and that includes trading income, membership and legacies. We were fortunate that in this last financial year, trading income continued to recover strongly from COVID-19, and the profits from DWT, our trading arm, go straight to core conservation work managed by the charity. But this really hasn't filled the hole left by NRW, unfortunately. As always, this is a backward-looking review covering a financial year that continued the recovery from the pandemic. We did have another good year overall and made a surplus of around 180,000, but we're still very concerned about funds for the future. Our key focus remains inflation, the need to pay our staff fairly, and the considerable continued cost pressures associated with our large and varied estates of buildings and land. Conservation highlights. Please do read the achievements and performance section of our annual report. It's saved on our website. It's only possible to give a few highlights during a short presentation, so I really can't do justice to the incredible amount of work achieved across our area by staff and volunteers. However, I'll give it a go. We began work on a contract with ADAS in partnership with the Welsh Government, focusing on improving biodiversity of privately owned, unimproved neutral grasslands and hay meadows in Ceredigion and North Carmarthenshire. We chose 11 landowners for the project, carried out baseline surveys of their land, and are advising on management and capital works to improve biodiversity. We'll also be training the landowners to monitor the grasslands themselves, and the landowners will receive a payment in return. We hope that this type of results-based project could form part of the agri-environment schemes in the future. There was really high demand from landowners to become part of the project, so it demonstrates a potential popularity of this type of. The reserve staff have been busy implementing a nature networks project across 39 nature reserves. The work has included desilting ponds, lime washing buildings, erecting fencing, improving pathways and boardwalks, waymarking, buying tools and equipment, and undertaking woodland and grassland management. The grant has facilitated grazing to be established on some more nature reserves by funding the necessary infrastructure, including at Llynfach in Neath Port Talbot, where we're trialling no-fence grazing collars. Management work across our 100 or so nature reserves has covered a really wide variety of work, including ash dieback, habitat management, site checks, fencing, and detailed record keeping, all of which is required by our Glass-Tier contract. We've also covered path management, new dipping platforms, infrastructure repairs, clearing trees from fence lines, litter collection, scrub management, management of grazing animals, and sluice repairs. We are so very grateful to all the volunteers who accompany our staff on reserves work of their tremendous skills and energy. The Nature Networks grant also funded much of our research and monitoring costs at the Cardigan Bay Marine Wildlife Centre this year, as well as funding essential new equipment for the team. The monitoring work, excitingly, now encompasses acoustic recordings of cetaceans in collaboration with Bristol University, as well as photo ID, giving us a lot of new information to work with. Our Team Wilder work continues to progress, but mainly focusing Cardiff, Swansea and Brecon, where we have staff and grants. Together with other wildlife trusts, we started a new project called Next Door Nature in Swansea, which was led by a dedicated project officer and supported by other staff. Using Team Wilder and community organising principles, the Next Door Nature project involves listening to people living in economically deprived communities in Swansea and supporting them in taking positive action for nature in their communities. We've worked up detailed plans for habitat improvements in the Thor catchment in the Vale of Glamorgan in our nature recovery work, with a view to the future reintroduction of water voles as part of a partnership involving other third sector organisations and a whole variety of funding. This follows a successful mink monitoring and management project to prepare the habitat. We've established relationships with local landowners and are also building a relationship with the new owners of Aberthor, with whom we're starting to discuss potential habitat improvements at the old power station. We're hoping to secure the lagoons within that site as a nature reserve again. It's one of only 3 saline lagoons in Wales and ecologically very significant. Given the potential escalation of marine energy development proposals, we work with North Wales Wildlife Trust to create a 2-year marine planning officer post, mostly funded by the People's Postcode Lottery. This post has been supporting LISA with the substantial casework generated by the various proposals for offshore wind farms in our area. We're also part of the Irish Sea Network. This is a new partnership responding to the urgent need for greater cross-national collaboration and knowledge sharing in the Irish Sea. Together, we produced a report, the Irish Sea Network's review of the current state of the Irish Sea. I'm sure this will be mentioned more than once today, but it was fantastic for our islands to be part of the new Wild Isles documentary featuring Sir David Attenborough, and a real career highlight for me to spend the day with him. The first episode was watched by nearly 6 million people. Tyvee Marshes Nature Reserve was also home to the BBC Live Autumn Watch team for 2 weeks. The live broadcast was hosted by Yola Williams and Gillian Burke and was aired last October, and it also featured the Cardigan Bay Marine Wildlife Centre Nature Networks project. The first episode of that was watched by 1.4 million people, so we've done really well with media this year. We had a lovely event for our members and supporters to launch our 10-year strategy at Fonman Castle in May, hosted by Yola Williams, and over 100 members attended. The strategy is on our website, so I'd love you to read that if you can. Areas we're focusing on in our strategy outside our conservation work, just to end. So we're integrating Welsh language into our work far more these days, starting to deliver some Welsh language guided walks and encouraging our staff to learn Welsh. We introduced a formal volunteering policy to encourage staff to take 2 days a year initially to work with other teams in the trust to build new skills, many of whom have used that opportunity for SCOMA volunteering. We set up various staff working groups, including Wellbeing, Welsh Language and EDI, and trustees are participating in the groups as well. We're upskilling staff where we can, so we're grateful to Mike Alexander for delivering detailed management plan training for most of our conservation team. We're trying hard to improve salaries for staff because benchmarking showed our salaries were low compared to other wildlife trusts, and we are making progress. And we've finally finished the move to a new membership database, which is in common with many other wildlife trusts. It was a nightmare project, and data migration problems caused significant delays, but we're satisfied that when it's up and running properly and staff are well trained, the new system will be far more useful. I'd like to end by thanking all our volunteers and supporters, of course, including the Friends of the Islands, without whom we couldn't achieve nearly so much for wildlife in South and West Wales. Thank you very much for listening.